Am I the jerk for bringing my child to a child-free wedding? Hi everyone. I am a 19-year-old mother to my beautiful 2-year-old daughter Amelia. Last year I was asked to be a bridesmaid in a family friend's wedding. I was thrilled and immediately said yes, even though it was a child-free event. I had arranged for a babysitter, but about a week before the wedding, she informed me that she would no longer be in the city and could not watch my daughter. Given the short notice, I approached the bride and asked if I could bring Amelia to the wedding, as I did not have time to find another trusted babysitter. My daughter is overall a very easygoing child. She is comfortable with people and happy as long as she is fed. The bride knew this and she had watched my daughter on multiple occasions before, and she happily agreed, saying that having Amelia there would make the wedding photos even more special. The wedding was going smoothly, though I noticed a few stares from the groom's parents. Amelia stayed with my sisters for most of the day, but during the reception I took her with me to congratulate the couple. As I approached with Amelia in my arms, the groom's mother suddenly commented, "You shouldn't have brought a baby to a child-free wedding, especially when she doesn't fit the family." I was completely taken aback. For context, my daughter is mixed. I am half white and half Hispanic and her father is black. I have been called whitewashed because I am not in contact with my Hispanic family, so I knew exactly what she meant by saying my daughter didn't fit the family. The bride looked shocked, and the groom immediately stood up and led his parents away. Taking this as my cue, I decided it was time to leave. I made the rounds to say goodbye to everyone and put Amelia in her stroller. As I was leaving, the bride came over to apologize for her in-laws' behavior. I was upset, but I knew it wasn't her fault, so I simply wished her luck and left. Now, about a week after the wedding, I got tagged in a Facebook post. Strange because I don't use Facebook. The post read, "I'm outraged that my grandchildren weren't allowed at this event, but when a teen mother who couldn't be responsible enough to leave her child with the father brings her baby, is perfectly fine." The post was from the groom's mother. To make things worse, she's also been telling family members that I'm lying about what she said regarding my daughter's appearance. So now I'm wondering, am I the bad person in this situation? You behaved properly. The groom's mother seems to have overstepped her boundaries by getting upset over the no kids policy and taking it out on others. The permission to bring the child was granted by the bride, and the groom seemed to agree, making them the only ones with a say in the matter. It's clear that the groom's mom is stirring up unnecessary drama, especially given the nasty remarks and her online antics. Am I the jerk for telling my friend I won't be inviting them out anymore? So I have a friend I'll call Mary who is 22, and we work together. This past Saturday, I invited her out with my friend group to a local amusement park that goes all out for Halloween. Mary asked if she could bring her children, a 5-year-old boy and an 18-month-old girl. Everyone involved told her it was not a good idea, as this park and its haunted attractions are not geared towards children, and we were planning on being there until it closed at midnight. She seemed to accept this but asked repeatedly throughout the week leading up to Saturday. Each time she was told no. Saturday arrived, and as you can guess, she brought her children. Other people in our group asked her why, and she just shrugged, saying she thought the kids would have fun. They didn't. Her son got scared within about 10 minutes of us entering the park and began to cry, begging to go home, to which Mary told him to calm down and that he would have fun eventually. We got in line for the first haunted house, and her son again started to cry, saying he didn't want to go into the house. Mary then asked me if I would stay and watch her son and daughter so she could go into the haunted house. I told her no, and explained that this is why we told her not to bring her children. She became upset and dragged her very scared child through the haunted house. He had a meltdown and had to be carried out. This repeated through every single haunted house we attempted to go through. Around 11:30, my boyfriend pulled me aside and told me that he couldn't take any more of the screaming and crying, so we tried to find a place to calm down. Mary saw this and left her son and daughter with us while she ran off to go on a ride. Her son got scared by an actor chasing people with a chainsaw and had an epic meltdown. I did my best to console him, but was rapidly running out of patience. Finally, his mother came back and I put her son back into her arms. I told Mary that my boyfriend and I were leaving along with the rest of our group. She agreed, but was visibly annoyed. We left the park and went to Waffle House for dinner. At this point, it was midnight, and both children were extremely tired and upset. They cried throughout dinner, and Mary did nothing to calm them down. Finally, at the end of my patience, once we exited the restaurant, I lost my temper. I told Mary that this was why she was told not to bring her children to this event, and that I would not be inviting her back out again if she couldn't follow the group's rules. Mary got upset and has since blocked me and the other people who agreed with me. No one in the group agreed with Mary, but they all mentioned that I didn't need to say anything to her about it, and I didn't need to tell her I wasn't inviting her out again. Am I the jerk? It seems like Mary needs to be more considerate of her children and the people she hangs out with. If no one in the group speaks up, what's to stop her from repeating this behavior? Mary's actions could lead to nightmares for her kids, and it's understandable why some would choose not to invite her again. Those defending her might soon get tired of her bringing her children to situations where it's not appropriate. Am I the jerk for refusing a wedding even when my mom offered to pay? My wife and I eloped about a month ago after being engaged for 7 months. We had discussed our preferences extensively, and although neither of us hated the idea of a wedding, we had our reasons for avoiding it. For my wife, there is a lot of interfamily conflict on her side, and she wanted to avoid the difficult task of choosing who to invite to minimize potential issues. For me, it was also family-related but more about expectations. My mother remarried when I was 19, more than 15 years after my father passed away, and she became a stepmother to several very young children. While I get along adequately with my step-siblings, I do not have a close relationship with them. I knew they would want to be included in the wedding, and my mother would want them to be treated like my siblings. Her husband would likely expect that they be treated as if they were my blood siblings. I did not want to do this, especially regarding the roles of groomsmen and bridesmaids, so eloping felt like the best way to avoid conflict. After we returned, I realized how right I was because 3 of the children had expected to be bridesmaids and groomsmen, and had even looked at outfits, despite me never mentioning this. My mother was upset when we announced we had gotten married. She asked about a wedding, and I explained that we felt it was better for us to elope, citing savings in money and time. She expressed her desire to see me get married and offered to pay for a wedding. I told her it was a kind offer but not necessary. She insisted it would mean a lot to everyone, allowing the kids to be part of the wedding, and we could celebrate together as a family. Her husband also offered to contribute financially. I declined again, and my mother suggested I at least consider it and discuss it with my wife. She argued that we denied ourselves a wedding when we got married, but there was no need to forgo one when all expenses could be covered. Her husband suggested I do it for the children, who were really hurt by not being included in the wedding, even though they wanted to be involved. Am I the antagonist? It's pretty clear that the mom's focus on the wedding was more about her stepkids than the actual couple. The decision to elope seems like a solid choice, prioritizing the couple's happiness over anyone else's expectations. It's understandable that family might be upset about missing it, but the day is not about them. Encouraging the newlyweds to stand firm against pressure for a second wedding is definitely the way to go. Am I the jerk for telling my friends to leave because of how they were chewing? I am a 22-year-old female and have misophonia. Chewing is my biggest trigger, but when people are chewing loudly, I usually leave the room. The closest I've come to making it someone else's problem is when someone who wasn't the chewer asked why I left the room, and I calmly explained my misophonia. 2 of my best friends, a 21-year-old female and a 22-year-old male, whom I love, chew with their mouths wide open and make a lot of noise while eating. For this reason, I try to avoid eating with them. The other day, I mentioned that I had been in the mood for baking brownies back at my apartment. They asked if I wanted to bake with them and we could have fun. I agreed but mentioned that it might not be the best idea for us to eat together afterward. They said they understood and promised they would chew quietly and keep their mouths closed to have fun together. After asking multiple times to confirm they wouldn't feel like they were walking on eggshells, we made plans. When we sat down to eat the brownies, they both chewed with their mouths wide open and made horrible sounds. I assumed they had forgotten what we talked about, so I politely asked, "Sorry guys, do you mind chewing quieter and closing your mouths, please?" I felt like I deserved a break from noises that irritated me once I was back in my apartment. One friend said it wasn't fair for me to expect them to chew differently. I was dumbfounded since I never asked this of them in any other scenario. I reminded them of the conversation where they promised to be mindful of their chewing. She said she didn't think I'd actually hold them to it and that, as their friend, I should be willing to put up with it. The other friend nodded in agreement and said it's not a big deal. I explained how badly this condition affects me and that I wanted peace and quiet in my own apartment after some fun time with them. He said something like, "Fun shouldn't come at a sacrifice." I was fed up and asked them to leave. They sat there in shock and silence for a moment. I repeated that it was probably best if they both just left for the night. She rolled her eyes and said I was being ridiculous, then took another huge bite of brownie and chewed obnoxiously. At that point, I demanded that they leave, which they finally did. I've talked to them since then, but it's just been casual texts like, "How are you, what's up?" Things haven't felt the same for the last few days. I'm wondering if I went too far and should have put up with it for the sake of friendship, but I genuinely cannot function while hearing certain noises. Am I the one at fault? I think you are not in the wrong here at all. Chewing with their mouths open is unsanitary and gross, and it's something you'd expect from a kid, not grown adults. The fact that they promised to be mindful of your misophonia, only to completely disregard it, shows how inconsiderate they are. People like that don't deserve your time, especially when they make a big deal out of something they agreed to accommodate in the first place. Am I the jerk for not writing about my stepdad when doing an assignment on the most important male figure in my life? I need to ask this because it has turned into a big thing. For school, we were asked to do an assignment on the most important male figure in our lives. This male figure could be dead or alive, but they had to be in our life at some point. I chose my dad to talk about, and I still consider him the most important male figure in my life, with my brother in second place. My stepdad, who has been dating my mom since I was 10 years old and married to her since I was 12 years old, was hurt when he realized I didn't talk about him. He has tried really hard to be a second father to me. He doesn't want to replace my dad, he just wants to have a kid. He can't have any of his own since he had cancer at 17 years old, which left him sterile. He always wanted kids, and due to medical reasons, he isn't eligible to adopt in the normal way. 2 years after he and my mom got married, he asked me if I'd like him to adopt me. I said no, and I could tell that really hurt him, but he still tries. I didn't do the assignment on him, and it really hurt his feelings. We don't have the relationship he wants because I don't want a second dad, so I treat him like my mom's husband, but not like my parent or second dad. I speak respectfully, and I do chores when he asks. I have never hugged him before. I don't call him dad. I don't say my parents when I mention him and my mom together. When college is mentioned at school, I go to my mom, especially if money is being discussed. If I want money for going out, I ask my mom and not my stepdad. I don't get him Father's Day cards or gifts. After the assignment got some attention and was put on display at school, my mom and stepdad saw it. They spoke to me about it, and my stepdad mentioned how much it hurts him when I don't consider him that important. He told me he felt like I could have done 2 assignments and talked about him and my dad if I really wanted to mention my dad. He felt that doing it in a non-essay format, knowing it would be displayed at school, was hurtful. Am I the antagonist? You are not the bad guy in this situation. It's strange for a grown man to pressure a child into viewing them as a more important figure in their life. Everyone experiences family dynamics differently, and there's no right or wrong way to feel about it. You can't force a connection that isn't there, and it's perfectly fine if the relationship isn't what he desires. The assignment should have focused on an important influence to avoid putting students in awkward situations. Am I the jerk for telling my mom that her husband isn't my dad and his family didn't replace mine just because my dad died? I am a 17-year-old male with a blended family. My mother had me with my father, but they broke up when I was a baby. My mom then had my half-sister Macy, who is 15 years old, with a man named Aaron. My parents shared custody of me until my father died when I was 5. When I was 4, my mom began dating her first husband and had 3 other half-siblings: Daniel, who is 10 years old, Lila, who is 9 years old, and Kenna, who is 7 years old. My mom and her first husband got divorced, and 2 years ago, she remarried. Her current husband has 3 children with his ex: Holden, who is 13 years old, Lacey, who is 11 years old, and Kyrie, who is 9 years old. My half-siblings visit their fathers every other week, and my step-siblings go to their mother every other week. I am the only child who does not have my father to visit. Because of this, my mom expected me to bond closely with her husband and accept him as my new dad. Even after I did not accept her first husband as my dad, she thought her second husband would be different. However, I still see my dad as my only father and do not view either husband as a parent. I have a close relationship with my extended family on my dad's side. My grandparents live 10 minutes away from me. I have 3 aunts who live within 30 minutes of me and 2 uncles who live less than an hour away. I also have 24 cousins who live within those distances. There are times when my half-siblings are with their fathers that I ask to spend time with someone from my dad's family. Mom does not like when I do this, but she sometimes allows it. She often tries to push me to spend time with her husband or his family when my half-siblings are gone, or when I am the only child in the house. 2 weeks ago, my half-siblings were with their dads, and my step-siblings wanted to spend time with my mom's husband's family. I asked my mom if I could spend the day with my grandfather, as he was doing something interesting. Mom was surprised, and said there was a party at her in-laws' house and that I should be there with family. I told her I wanted to be with my family, which is why I was asking to be with my grandfather. She accused me of being intentionally ignorant, and we got into an argument. She said I never willingly spend time with her husband or his family, and do not prioritize my family. I pointed out that she does not have the same expectations for my half-siblings, and that I should not be treated differently because my dad died. I told her that her husband did not become my dad, and his family did not become my family just because my father passed away. I also said that they do not mean more to me than to my half-siblings. Mom argued that it is different, and that I should not feel this way. I told her that if it were up to me, I would always choose to spend time with my real family. She was very upset with me for what I said. Am I the antagonist in this situation? Nobody gets to decide whom you consider family. Parents can't force family, and just because someone is in your life by marriage doesn't mean you have to see them as family. Everyone has the right to choose whom they want to call family, and that's a personal decision that should be respected. Enjoy spending time with the people who truly matter to you, and don't let anyone pressure you into unwanted relationships. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.